All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Want to especially welcome all the brand new people from this week. We have a special treat tonight. This is every Monday evening, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We have nothing but the best of the best. He's one of the most sought out trainers in the world. He does some unique trainings. For those of you who were in Miami a couple years ago with us, he did something called the View from the Edge. He does journey, he's done accelerations. Watch out because over the next few months, you're going to see him on the road with us, with myself and the new president, Jurgen. So we're going to get right to it. He has trained hundreds of thousands of people. He has helped thousands of people reach a six-figure income, hundreds of people reach seven figures income. He's helped people transform their life, get rid of bad habits from all of it. We go back. I met him almost 20 years ago. I am
Yeah.
honored and blessed to call him a friend and a business partner. So please welcome my friend, your trainer for this evening, Mr. Marc Ray.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And as always, I am just mystified that you're up at 3 a.m. and you seem happy. So that's unbelievable.
Right. At least I'm not angry, right?
Yeah, no, you're the fact that you're awake is impressive. So I apologize a little bit for the lighting here, guys. My wife spent many years as a model and actress, and if I have bad lighting with something, she slams me in the head with a frying pan. But we're in a hotel right now on a little bit of a break, and unfortunately, it's about the best lighting I could pull off. So, more so, I think the content is what you're really here for. So let's focus on that. And first of all, I know we just have a challenge. I'm sure you saw Micah's video and you're seeing other leaders doing their video. So the first thing I'd encourage you is to join in, declare war on your life, become a Bellator warrior, and declare war on, the parts of all of us. Every human being has parts of our current situation that we want to rise up and overcome. I mean, last week when we were doing this training, I was talking about here's where you want to get to. The chances are this person is not ready or capable to get. So imagine, different way of saying what I said last week. Imagine between here and where you want to get to is an obstacle course. And in order for you to be strong enough and fast enough to get through that obstacle course, you need to get better. You need to get stronger. You need to get smarter. You need to get trained. You need to have techniques that you need to learn. So who you are now won't get you to where you want to get to, right? That's a very simple concept. That's why I would imagine you plug into these every week. That's why you'll definitely show up when we do our live events, because when you become the person who's capable of going through that obstacle course, then and only then can you get to where you want to get to. Can you get to whatever your promised land is? So part of the process, okay, there's no one thing that's going to give you what you need to get through the obstacle course. I don't care if you see some guru who's on Instagram telling you if you give him X amount of dollars and go to his boot camp training online, that he'll turn you into a zillionaire. But that's just not true. Now, it might be a part of the puzzle, just like today, this right here might be a part of the puzzle. Just like, many of the things that the Bellator, the challenge is part of the puzzle. So make sure you do that, okay? And be public about it and here's why I think this kind of stuff is very important is you're a part of this company and people need to know you're committed to what you're doing. Other people, think about what we're doing here. We're selling nodes, so it's really hard to get other people to get one if you don't have one. It's not a requirement. You don't have to get one, but it's obviously just common sense. Like I do this. Like, last night I went to a restaurant I've been to, I don't know, 20, 30 times in my life here in New York called Il Tonello, right? So if I'm telling you you've got to go to Il Tonello, but I've never been there, that's not as powerful as going, oh my gosh, you got to go there. You got to talk to this guy. He's amazing. Whatever you do, you got to get the table made Caesar salad, no matter what else you order. This is also really good. This is also really good. This is one of my favorites. Make sure you book a reservation early because it's like when I've been there and I know what it is, you can tell that I like it, but I'm in it. I've been there. I'm not like trying to get you to do something I don't do. And let's face it, most people in the way that we live our life, most people are a do as I say, not as I do kind of a person. So in other words, you shouldn't drink while I'm drinking. So they tell people what to do, but then they do something else. And if you can't figure out why people won't follow you or why people aren't buying from you, let me tell you, if you're a do as I say, not as I do person, another way of saying that is if you're not walking your talk, then people are not going to follow you. They're not going to buy from you. They're not. So again, you may not see how doing this challenge helps, but it does because, people we talk about, it came from playing poker. I'm sure you know the expression in this day and age, it's become so widely used. I'm all in. I'm all in. Well, that comes from poker. When you are playing a hand and you're down to your last chips and you don't have enough chips to match what the bet is. So if I raise you a certain amount of chips and you don't have that many chips, then you just push all your chips in. And if you lose, you're out, you're done. But if you win, then obviously you get to stay in the game and you want to. But so it's really kind of a cool deal where it's like, are you willing to risk it all? That's what it boils down to. Are you willing to risk it all? And most people, by the way, aren't. And if you don't know this, being an independent rep for our company, you're considered an entrepreneur. And if you look at the definition of what an entrepreneur is, it's someone who takes unusually large financial risks. You know what I mean? And that's what's really comical about this because, Hakan is a entrepreneur who takes unusually large financial risk. He is a quintessential entrepreneur. There's many other, like I'm in buildings here in New York. I mean, I'm on the 44th floor of a hotel. Whoever bought and owns this hotel took an unusually large financial risk. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars to buy a building. You know what I mean? Not even knowing for sure if they could rent out the rooms and on and on and on. So you and I are entrepreneurs, I mean, as network marketers, we do take a financial risk, but it's not anywhere near as intense. Anyway, that was a side note, no extra charge for that. So my point is, if you're going to be all in, the way we use the expression is, I'm committed. That's what we mean. I'm really committed, but I want you to get where it comes from because it comes from being really all in. Like, I'm all in. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to give this. And if it works, I win at a big level. If it doesn't work, I'm screwed. Well, by that definition, most people in network marketing are not even slightly all in. They're not even remotely all in. See, if someone's really all in, they quit their job. They do whatever it takes, like they're financially committed. So here's what's great about this. You don't need, between you and I, you don't need to be all in. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to take your life savings by any means and put it all into whatever the product line is here. You don't need to do that at all. As a matter of fact, I would say I wouldn't even recommend it. When people join and start doing network marketing, I don't tell them to quit their job. That is idiotic in my mind. Listen, pressure makes some very small percentage, it makes some people break records. It breaks most people. So I don't want to put someone in a position where their full income is dependent on what we're doing. But if this is a hobby, and Jim Rohn, who's one of the greatest trainers of all time, does a great training on this. I'm not super familiar with Jim Rohn's materials, but I did hear this a long time ago and I love it. It's like, keep your job, keep your full-time job as long as you possibly can. Because if you join here and let's just say your overhead to pay your bills and get by is $4,000 a month. Let's just say that's what it is. Okay. Well, if you're here full time and you're going, yeah, I make enough money to pay my bills. Well, okay, that's nice. I mean, but it's like, it's nothing spectacular. But if you have your job and your little thing you do on the side is paying you enough where you could pay all your bills with it if you needed to, now that is a good story. If you, by some act of God, are doing your full-time job and now your little thing you do on the side is paying you double what it costs you to pay your monthly bills, Now that's an amazing story. So the longer you hold on to your job, so that's the definition of not being quote unquote all in if we're following a traditional. But what I'm saying is, while you're not going to be all in a real traditional sense, let's give the impression you're all in. Let's give the impression you're committed to what you're doing, because people won't follow you if you're not in. If they don't see that you're in, again, they're not going to follow the do this if you're not doing it. They're not going to follow what you're saying. So one of the things you can show them now through your actions is I'm committed. And how you do it, you write down a couple of things that you want to stop. Bad habits. Human beings are creatures of habit. Human nature, a lot of it works against this. So search yourself, write down 2, 3, 4, 5 things you want to change, write them down, put them in there, smash it, get rid of it, and put it on social media, and then challenge 1 or 2 other people do the same thing. Let's do our best to get this spiraling. And listen, for us in the community, it's good to see the other people in the community are doing it. That's great. But what we're trying to do here is get people outside the community. Now, let me share this with you. I'm, again, being in New York, I just saw this. So one of the reasons my wife and I came here is because we are Broadway people. We love Broadway shows, obviously great Broadway shows. And about 6 weeks ago, we came into the city to see Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal doing Othello. I'm like, I've already seen Denzel twice on Broadway in the past with A Raisin in the Sun and Fences. Literally unbelievable. So I'm like, if he's back on Broadway, especially doing Shakespeare, I'm all in. Now, you may not like that kind of stuff. You don't need to, but we're here because when we're in the city last time, all anyone was talking about was not Denzel. They were talking about Nicole Scherzinger doing Sunset Boulevard and how it was like one of the greatest performances in the history of Broadway and on and on. But the show was like coming to an end. I was like, ah. But because it got nominated for a bunch of Tony Awards, they extended it another month. And I'm like, boom, we bought the tickets. So we're here to see that. And we're excited to see that. And it's going to be awesome. And again, like how am I? Hold on. So as I'm like in my head for a second, I'm like, why am I telling you about this? Oh yeah. So Nicole Scherzinger, Sunset Boulevard. Now, when you walk around, I'm in a hotel that's in the theater district where all the Broadway shows are. Normally, I would stay on the Upper East Side, but long story short, we just end up staying at a hotel that's right across the street from the show that we're going to see. When you just walk out of the hotel and walk around the quote unquote theater district, you are going to see hundreds of posters of Sunset Boulevard. They don't put up a poster. They don't put up 5 posters. They put up literal city blocks of Sunset Boulevard. And it's not just Sunset Boulevard. Whatever the show is, if it might be a movie that's coming out, the whole city block is plastered with the new movie. Then you go 2 blocks over, and again, the whole city block, like hundreds of posters just along that one block. They're all over the place. Here's why. Because the first time you see something, it doesn't do anything. Second time, third time, I don't know psychologically how many times you have to see it, but I'm telling you, if you were to come to New York right now and you walked around the streets of New York, you would start saying, I wonder what this Sunset Boulevard thing is, because those posters are everywhere. Well, that's the idea of something going quote unquote viral, right? So if we only have, if we only have 50 people or 100 people or 500 people doing this, that ain't going to get viral. That's not going to, they need to see it numerous times. Different people need to see it from different sources. So if we're really going to make this thing work, you got to do it quickly and then nominate people and get them to nominate people and get them to nominate people and get them to nominate people. And years ago, I did something called the Icebox Challenge. I'm sure some of you saw that. And it was for a really cool cause, and it went viral. It went all over the place. Now, I don't know if we'll get that kind of reach, but let's get a reach. Let's get a lot of people who are not part of Bellator going, what is this? And, oh, that's pretty cool. Man, I'd like to find out about what it is. That's all. You know what I mean? And even if it doesn't go wildly viral, you're committed. and you're showing everyone on your team and everyone else who's not on your team yet, the one thing they know is you're proud of what you're doing and that you're serious about what you're doing. So again, I don't want to take an inordinate amount of time to talk about that, but since we're in the middle of doing that, I think it's really important that we talk about that. Okay, so we have spent a couple of weeks. How do you make your list? How do you invite people? Last week was definitely a mindset. Who do you need to become in order to get to where you're going to? So I want to go back to some training and teaching this week. So I want to talk about the difference between selling and sorting, between selling and recruiting. Okay, so there's two. If you go back into the basics of what I'll do a full training on this for you. I haven't done it yet in detail, but I'm going to talk about the 4 phases of the business. I'll give you a warm up right now. So phase 1 is you sell and recruit all day long. You sell and recruit all day long. Phase 2 is where you manage your team and they sell and recruit all day long. So phase 1, you sell and recruit all day long. Phase 2, you manage the people who sell and recruit all day long. Phase 3, you supervise the managers who are managing the people who sell and recruit all day long. And then phase 4, the final phase, you oversee the supervisors who are supervising the managers who are managing the people who sell and recruit all day long. But at the base, phase 1, you sell and recruit all day long. So next week, we'll talk about the 4 phases, and that'll be a lot of fun because that'll probably be a lot different than what you think it is. But we bring it up just to say phase 1, core phase, foundational phase, you sell and recruit all day long. Okay, great. Now, if we're selling and recruiting all day long, we got to learn how to sell. We got to learn how to recruit. Here's the problem. They're really different, like wildly different. So when I first started in my career of selling, I was a door-to-door salesman. You're not a door-to-door salesman, by the way. If you go to your friend's apartment and you knock on their door and you know who's going to open the door, that's not door-to-door sales. That's called visiting. I would knock on door after door after door after I had no idea if they were there. I had no idea if they were going to sick a dog on me and chase me down the street. I had when you do door-to-door sales for a while, which I did it for 6 or 7 years, you're going to have lots of stories to tell people over cocktails. Oh my gosh, some wild things happen. Anyway, long story short, all I'm trying to say is that was my beginning. Now in sales, and this is back in 1982. I'm a little older than you probably think, or maybe you think I'm that old. So anyway, that was a long time ago. A gas back then was like 30 cents a gallon. Unbelievable. 50 cents a gallon at the most. So things are way more expensive now. Back then, I was selling a set of cookware that the full cook, not even counting the China Crystal, just the big cookware set was almost $2,000. Just the cookware. $2,000 when a gallon was under 50 cents. Now that cookware over $10,000. Crazy, like way more expensive. So here's the thing. I'm knocking on your door. By the way, everyone has cookware, right? Like who doesn't have cookware? Even the most pathetic bachelor in the world already has cookware. So my first thing is to knock on your door and get in. That's not easy. Okay. That requires skill and training and teaching, which we'll never teach you because I don't want you going door to door. Second thing is you got to then convince them. The first thing is to convince them their cookware is no good and they have to throw it out. People don't buy a new set of cookware unless if they have a perfectly good set of cookware. So you have to convince them it's not a perfectly good set of cookware. It's actually harming your health and you need to get rid of it. Then the door is open to sell them a dramatically overpriced set of cookware. Now, in reality, truth, I don't think it's overpriced because I bought my cookware in 1982. I didn't buy it because anyway, that's a whole nother story. 1984, I bought the cookware. And now 41 years later, I still use it to cook every night. Whenever I cook, there are 2 or 3 pans that I bought way back then. So when I look at it, it is just a lot more expensive. Let's put it that, a lot more expensive. So number 1, I got to get in the door. Number 2, I got to sell you on getting rid of your cookware, which is not easy. Number 3, I got to convince you to buy mine, which is way more than what you paid for yours. So I learned hardcore selling. And I will tell you the simplest way, the mindset of hardcore selling is the customer, the potential customer, your client, is your prospect, is going to say no 7 times on average before they say yes and buy. So when someone goes, and this happened, someone goes, oh my gosh, that what? You get to the end, you give them the price and they go, $2,000 for, like, right now, if I was trying to sell you a set of cookware that costs $2,000, some of you would panic and be like, what? That's what for cookware? Imagine 41 years ago how ludicrous that price was. So often people, the first thing they would say was, what? I love it. I love it. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. Then they go, what? 2,000? Oh my gosh, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to spend $2,000 on a set of cookware. Now, if you're not trained and someone says, there's no way I'm going to spend $2,000 on a set of cookware, then you go, oh, okay. And you leave because they just said no, right? They said no, which, by the way, is different than an objection. You're going to learn on a future call that when someone goes, I'm not really sure, I have to think about it. That's an objection. A lot of you collapse and fall apart when someone says, oh, I need to think about it. But, oh, I need to think about it is not no. Can you see the difference? No is there's no way in hell I'm going to buy that. That's way too expensive. That is a clear no. So when someone says, I'm not sure, I'm going to have to think about it, can you see how much better that is than a no? So an objection, and I don't have time to get into teaching that today, an objection is actually a good thing because it's not a no. Listen, it's crazy analogy. I was never in the military, but I have the deepest and utter respect for people who serve their country. And a lot of the guys, it fascinates me, and I love to interview them. And it's amazing how many things you learn, whether you're in the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, doesn't matter. Now you learn Coast Guard, you learn amazing things that can really translate into business. And one of the things a soldier learns is that pain is a good thing. So imagine getting injured badly and you're in a lot of pain. They're going, it's a good thing. Well, why is it a good thing? Because you're not dead. If you're dead, you feel nothing. Twisted maybe, but in that realm, you can see why you need to think that way or why it's good to think that way. Kind of the same thing here, although it's nowhere near as intense. So a no is bad, but I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if I can afford it. That's an objection. That's actually a good thing. Is it a little bit pain? Yeah, but it means your sale is not dead. Now, here's the crazy thing though. This is hardcore selling. This is direct selling. This is like selling encyclopedias door to door, which doesn't happen anymore, selling vacuum cleaners door to door, which does still happen. The bottom line is when someone says, there's no way in the world I'm going to buy that, it's too expensive. In my head, I was trained to go, one. That's one objection. Not, okay, I'm out of here. So even though they said dead out 100% no, I'm like, one. So now you don't argue with someone. Okay. Again, the number one thing you probably heard before is the customer is always right. So you can never argue with a customer. Whenever you argue with a customer, 100% of the time you lose. So you can't argue with a customer. So when a customer says, no, there's no way I would buy that, the first thing you do is you acknowledge what they said. So you go, okay, I get, and this is part of how you deal with objections, which again, I'll do that in a whole different training. But for now, you go, okay, I hear you. I understand where you're coming from, Mrs. Jones. Remember, I'm selling a set of cookware. No, I understand the price is significantly higher than most anything else you could buy in the marketplace. So I acknowledge it. I didn't argue with her. I didn't say you're wrong. I disagree. I acknowledge it. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to reclose her. So it's like, I understand where you're coming from. The one thing though, if I really, let's think about this. I know like today it's a lot of money out, but over time, let's go back with how much money you're saving. So your electric bill is going to be lower. Remember, we talked about that. You're going to buy smaller cuts of meat because the meat doesn't shrink at all. That definitely is going to add up. The other thing, and I add all this. So really in the long run, as long as you keep the cookware at least 10 years, and you will, because, it's meant to literally last a lifetime, 10 years from now, you've gotten all that money back in savings and then some. So although it's a lot of money right now compared to the other things, in the long run, you'll never have to buy another piece of cookware the rest of your life. So when you look at it that way, it really is a sound investment, isn't it? So I'm closing again. Now, what would, right? So that's pretty good right there, right? The way I just did that. Yeah, I did it for years, so it's just part of my DNA. So then I reclosed her and she goes, yeah, I understand, but still, like that just I'm not going to spend that much money today. Now, again, that's two no's, but for me, I'm just going 1, 2 because I've got to get all the way to 7 before she's going to give in. So the best way I could explain this is selling, you're being relentless. You're refined about the way you're being relentless. You're not being pushy. You're not being obnoxious. You're not arguing. You're being very smooth, you're very, very kind, you're listening, you're acknowledging, but then you've got another way to get them to look at it. So it's another way if you're for selling. Imagine you're watching a TV station, right? You're watching a show. Let's say you're watching Silence of the Lambs, okay? A person's going to feel a certain way watching that, right? So now they're watching that and no, they're feeling weird. So I push the remote. I used to say you turn the channel, but nowadays you don't even know what I'm talking about. So I hit the remote. I changed to another station. Now I'm watching Law and Order. Now Law and Order is still pretty intense, but it's not as bad as Silence of the Lambs. So now they feel a different way. So I try to watch that channel for a while, but that's still not getting them. So now I click the channel one more time. Now all of a sudden we're watching Mr. Rogers. You know what I mean? Totally different. So they feel a different way, but they're still not going along. So now I click it and I go to Friends, the TV show Friends. That's funny. It's light. It's light. It's still not working. Now I go to Dumb and Dumber. I just keep changing the channel until I get to a station where they want to buy from. So I just keep showing them the product from different angles. So they eventually go, oh, wow, that's the idea. You keep spinning the product around, you keep flipping the channel until they see it the way that you're trying to get them to see it. That's if you want to be a great salesperson, you need to learn how to do that. Now, in order to do that, you really got to understand your product. I understood the cookware. I understood it. I used it. I live with it. So again, after I'll just give you an example. The first thing I gave my basic pitch, they said no. Then I talked about how much money they're going to save long term. It pays for itself. That didn't work. Now I'm going to say, okay, let's talk about something you can't put a price tag on, marry your health. So now every time you cook vegetables, you're boiling them, you're cooking away 90% of the vitamins and minerals. And I got to tell you, all the research is out. Human beings need vitamins and minerals. But for those people that are even eating vitamins and minerals, if you're cooking away 90 to 95% of all the vitamins and minerals because you're boiling it, because you'd be better off drinking the water that you boiled the vegetables in, because that's where all the vitamins and minerals are going. With our cookware, you don't boil them. You cook them this way, you maintain. Now, over the next 10 or 20 years, could you imagine how much healthier you're going to be having all the vitamins and all the nutrients and all the vegetables you eat in over 20 years? Again, you can't put a price tag on it. Without our cookware, you can't do that. So again, when you look at it that way, and I close again. Now, when she said, so in other words, I had at least 7 ways to spin it. So you need to start working on 7 ways to look at it from a different angle, 7 ways to change the channel. Now, notice how calm I am. I maintain the same demeanor at all points, at all points. So I'm selling and I go, it's not like when they say no, I don't like my body language doesn't change. I don't get nervous. I don't get angry. I don't get combative. I don't get louder. I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy and I'm here to serve them. Okay. And again, Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite sales trainers of all time, said, when your potential customer thinks it's you against them and you're in a battle, you're in a box and you're trying to knock them out, that's not good. You want to be an assistant buyer. And again, figuratively, you're sitting on the same side of the table as them. You're not against them. And you're collaborating with them. You're like an advisor. They brought you in so that they buy the right thing. And you're there to literally help them get the right thing, not to sell the thing to them that you make the biggest commission on, but to really assess their situation, what their needs are, what would serve them best, and then you point them in a direction on the right product. Now, most salespeople on earth don't do that. Most salespeople are just trying to make a sale. They're trying to sell the thing they make the biggest commission on. They don't give a shit about anything else. And that's why that's why sales is so traditional. People are not all geniuses, but when push comes to shove, people aren't stupid. And they know when you're using them. You might get away with making some sales early on if you don't care about your client whatsoever, and all you're trying to do is sell them the thing you make the most money on. But long term, it doesn't work that way. You know, I just got done talking about to someone in our industry who said, you know, who's made a fortune, not only made a fortune with commissions, but then instead of spending it like a drunken sailor, like most network marketers do, for the last 20 years, he's taken 50% of everything he earned and invested it in real estate in a major city. And like now, the guy is wealthy, wealthy, wealthy. And, you know, again, the bottom line is um, he's talking about he just serves clients. You know, he goes, you know, I know there's a lot more people out there that I can help. And that's like a real thing for this guy. Like he really is not trying to just sell the biggest package all the time. As a matter of fact, there may be times go right now, maybe this isn't a good idea right now. Right now, the way your finances are, how about I get back to you in 90 days and see if things have changed? You know, one of the things we learn in sales is the fortune is in the follow-up. Now, I'm not encouraging you not to sell when you're in front of them. Your greatest possibility, the odds are more in your favor if you close the first time, but sometimes you don't close the first time and then the fortune becomes in the follow-up. The whole thing I'm trying to share with you right now is have a heart for the person you're trying to sell. Now, you say no, they say no 7 times, you keep going, you're relentless, you're relentless, you're relentless. You keep going, you're nice about it, but you're relentless. That's sales. Okay, you keep going until you get the close. I think what are the real estate people? They follow up until they buy or die. They follow up with them until they buy or until they die. That's, you know, that's a little intense, but you get what I'm trying to say. Now I want to talk to you about recruiting because it's very opposite. Now, a lot of you are recruiting and selling each day, and you think they're the same. So I'm going to give you the best analogy I could possibly imagine. Hopefully you follow this. So tennis, you hit a ball up over a net, right? You all know what tennis is. And tennis and pickleball in this regard are pretty, even if you are a pickleball fanatic, which a lot of people are now, this still makes sense. So you're hitting the ball up and over a net. You are swinging. I was a tennis player. So your swing goes from low to high, low to high, low to high. You've got to swing low to get the ball up and over a net. Now, it's got to also come down before it goes over the line at the baseline is called, but it's an upward motion, but you hit it in such a manner that it goes up and then it comes down. Okay, cool. Now, athletes who play a sport over and over and over again develop what's called muscle memory. That's why the expression practice is perfect is utter bullshit. Because if I have a bad tennis swing and I practice it many, 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 many hours, I have now grooved that bad swing with muscle memory, meaning my unconscious mind is now making the swing without doing it. Like, unless my conscious mind really overrides what my unconscious mind does, which almost never happens, then my unconscious mind, my habit is what's going to make my swing happen. Does that make sense? So perfect practice makes perfect, not practice. That's just an idiotic statement. So anyway, it's another training for another day. So now I'm playing tennis and I'm playing tennis and I'm playing tennis, low to high, low to high, low to high, low to high. Now I'm not thinking low to high. That's what you teach a little kid, but that's the kind of swing. Now I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to learn how to hit the ball down the line, across court. I'm learning all different things, but mainly it's the baseline, the foundation of tennis is low to high. Now I've played tennis for years and years and years. This happened to me. Now I'm going to play racquetball. Now, I don't know if you play racquetball. It's in a court. It's indoors. There's no net. There's a wall in the front. There's walls on all sides. And the objective is to swing from high to low to hit the ball as low on the wall as you possibly can so that your opponent, the ball will bounce twice before they can get to it. So if I hit it high, the ball is going to bounce. It's very easy for my opponent to hit the ball. If I hit the ball from low to high in racquetball, you're going to get killed because the ball is always staying up. If I hit down on it, that's what's called in racquetball a kill shot. Now, if you don't know anything about tennis, racquetball, or anything, and you watch them, you watch people playing both, they're going to look really similar because there's a racket, there's a ball. It looks like they're swinging the racket almost the exact same way. So for those of you that are new, selling and recruiting looks almost exactly the same, but they couldn't be more different. So if your muscle memory, and this is very important, if you're coming into networking and you've never recruited and built a team and all you've done is sell, you better listen to what I'm saying right now. My first 9 months in network marketing, I was a disaster because I was selling everyone on being a rep. So when I was selling products, I was doing amazing. So I knew how to sell, right? Someone's going to say no 7 times before I say yes. So we had a water filtration product and I was selling a water filter and I sold almost everyone. My closing ratio was close to 100%. But then when I tried to recruit someone and I showed them the presentation at the end, they said, yeah, I don't really think it's for me. For me, because no one ever taught me different, I was still saying that's one. I was going, okay, that's one no. So I go, yeah, but look at it this way, that way, the other thing. And they go, yeah, but I still don't think so. Then I'd go two and I'd keep going. And then they say, and three. So long story short, I was, by the time they said no 7 times, I was closing them. I was convincing them. They got in. A lot of them bought some inventory to get their business up and running. Now, here's the thing. Out of all of the first 47 people I recruited, no one, not one of them recruited anybody else. They didn't want to do the business. I closed them on doing the business. So here's the thing to understand. Selling is relentless. Recruiting is the exact opposite. Recruiting is almost exactly like asking somebody on a date. So you make the presentation, right? During the presentation, we are selling, right? We're showing them why they should do Bellator, why they should do this as a second stream of income. We're giving them all the reasons. Look at what's going on in the outside world. Look at what's going on. Your job might get replaced with AI or a robot or whatever. This is I always tell people, you jump out of a plane with a parachute. What if you pull the cord and it doesn't work? What if you had a second parachute? People are jumping out the window with 401ks. What if the stock market crashes? Don't you want to have a second pair? There's whatever. During the presentation, we're selling them on why they should do the business. But at the end, we've given it our best shot. We've asked them on a date, and now they either say yes or say no. So imagine, really, you ask someone on a date and they go, yeah, I don't think so. I'm not really interested. Are you going to go, well, wait a minute. You know what I mean? It's like, let me show you how much I can bench press. Did I tell you how much I could? Wouldn't that be pathetic? Or if they say no, would you go, yeah, but let me show you my bank account. I mean, I've got a lot of money in my bank account. Let me show you my stock portfolio. Like anything like that would be pathetic. Like there's either polarization, meaning there's either attraction or there's not. Okay, Dr. Phil, most of you know who Dr. Phil is. He wrote a book many, many years ago called Life Matters. And in the first chapter I'm not a huge Dr. Phil fan, by the way. I don't think I'm endorsing Dr. Phil, but his first book was really good. And the first chapter of the first book was titled Either You Get It or You Don't. Love that. Great chapter as well. And that's when it comes to recruiting. Either they get it or they don't. Have you ever told a funny joke to someone with a little bit of a sophisticated punchline and they didn't get it? Okay, either you get it or you don't. If they don't get it, they're not going to think it's funny. Okay, you show them the business. Either they get it or they don't. Now, if you show the product to someone and they don't get it, you turn it, you change the channel, you turn it, you turn it, you turn it, you turn it, turn it, you change the channel, change the channel. In sales, you're relentless. In recruiting, you're aloof. Who's got the deal? We've got the deal. So our expression, and you probably heard this by now from Ray and the guys, is some will, Some won't. So what? That's recruiting. That's your mind. That is not what you're doing. So listen, on the same presentation, many times you have an opportunity to sell or recruit. Sometimes, right? So at the end of a presentation for many years, I would say, so would you like to get the product? Would you like to be a rep? Or would you like to do both? That's a pretty good way to, because you're not saying, do you want to do it or not? You're saying, do you want to do one aspect, the other aspect, or both aspects? So in essence, what we're doing is selling and recruiting at the same time. Now, if someone says at that point, yeah, I definitely want to buy the product, boom, I close the sale. That's it. I did. If they say I don't like, they say, no, of those three choices, I want to buy the product. Quit while you're ahead, close the sale, get their money, make the sale. That's it. If someone says, I want to just be a rep, I don't want to buy the product, again, just take the easy stuff. So take it. If they say they want to do both, great. If they say, well, I don't really know. And if, in other words, if their objection or if what they're saying is about the product, then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be relentless. I'm going to try to make a sale no matter what. So again, this is following up during the presentation. If they have a recruiting objection, I'm just going to go, okay, no big deal. I understand. And then I'm just going to try to sell them product. If they don't want to do the business, and only 2 to 3% of all the human beings in the world are in network marketing. However, lots of people invest money for their future, right? Much higher percentage of people are investing money for their future involved in network marketing. So the odds are more people are going to want to be a customer than they are to be a rep. So get it through your head. If they're saying, I'd rather be a customer, let them be a customer, you bonehead. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if they want to do both, great. If they just want to be a rep, great. But if they want to do it, here's the bottom line. If they're not going to go out and sell the product, if they're not going to go out and recruit people to sell the product, what is the point of having them on your team? So having someone on your team who's not going to do anything is not a good thing. That's not valuable. That's not what you want. So your goal is to have someone on your team who's going to actually engage and do what we're doing. So again, with recruiting, some will, some won't. So what? Now here's the problem. For me, I was going low to high, low to high, low to high, low to high. I didn't know I was doing it. Okay. My muscle memory was, I'm going to close you. I'm going to close you. I'm going to close. I didn't know any better. Then I went to training and learned recruiting and selling are as opposite as they could. If they were magnets, they would repel each other. They're opposite. They're very, 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 they're going in different direction. This way is California, this way is New York. They're very opposite. So I needed to, with my conscious mind, stop myself from closing someone 7 times, overcoming their objections, flipping the channel. When they said they didn't want to do the business, I just let it go. Now, it was hard to do that because in my mind, yeah, but let me sell them on do it. What happened was I sold so many people on doing the business who did nothing. Then I recruited a couple of people who actually wanted to do the business. I didn't have to, I just asked one. So, you see an opportunity for yourself. Yeah. And they sign up and they want to do the business. Working with them is a pleasure. Closing, imagine again, just go back to the analogy. You ask someone on a date, they don't find you attractive, they don't want to go out with you, but you're persuasive enough to convince them. I mean, what's that date going to be like? Is it going to be any fun whatsoever? If somehow, some way, instead of a date, it was a marriage proposal, and you go, please marry me, and they go, no, I really don't want to marry you. You're not the one. I don't love you. But you change the channel, and finally you convince them to marry you. That marriage is never going to last. It's going to be a disaster. So recruiting is like asking someone to marry. You don't want a yes, you want a hell yes. You want someone who's like, yes, I am in. I want to do this. And if you don't get that response, then you probably shouldn't marry that person. If you don't get that response, then you probably shouldn't recruit that person. But when we're selling, we're going to keep turning it around. People need to logically justify their purchases. So we need to be willing to put in extra work, have different ways of showing. You don't want to do that with the business. Either they get it or they don't. They get it or they don't. They get it or they don't. So for me, when it comes to recruiting, I would say, look, I'm just a professional decision collector. And if you want to do it, great. And if you don't, great. I really don't care. I'm like the guy standing outside the movie theater. You just saw the movie. I'm sitting there and my form says, did you like the movie? Yes or no. If it's no, thank you so much. I didn't make the movie. I don't care if you didn't like the movie. May the force be with you. I like the movie, but if you didn't like the movie, I don't care. My job is not to convince you to like the movie. My job is to be here and find out, did you like the movie? You didn't like the movie. Have a nice day. Thank you for coming. Okay. On the other hand, if they say, I like the movie, great. Let's get involved and do this together. Some will, some won't. So what? So with recruiting, I have to have much less of an aggressive attitude, much more of a aloof attitude. Like I've made the best movie possible. Either you get it or you don't. If you don't get it, then you don't get it. It's okay. It's a work of art. Like there's a lot of movies like that, right? You walk out and you're like, whoa, I don't really get it. Have you ever seen a movie like that, like a Wes Anderson movie or some cop, art house movie? Like in a lot of people, honest to God, like the ultimate would be the what's the old movie, Orson Welles, Citizen Kane. Like at the end, like a lot of people, that's considered one of the two or three greatest movies of all time. There's a lot of people who watch that and go, what? Like it's over and they don't get it. Either you get it or you don't. And if they don't, it's okay. Because what we want is we want them to be all in, but they're not going to be all in if they don't get it. So a lot of times, if they become just a customer and they're satisfied as a customer, then eventually they may also want to be a rep, but don't force the rep thing, guys. Okay. Some will, some won't. So what? If you've been in sales, you're going to have to undo that muscle memory, that low to high, low to high. You're going to have to undo the closing thing and learn how to do it a different direction. In the beginning, it's going to be difficult. In the beginning, it's going to be weird. I know for some of you, the whole idea is confusing because we're selling and recruiting. But remember, phase one is we sell and recruit all day long. So you just need to understand when you get resistance selling, you keep going until you make a sale. They either buy or they die. When you are recruiting, when they don't want to do it, you just let them go. Some will, some won't. So what? So that was a good training. Okay. I'm telling you, that's a good training. That is a fundamental core training that everyone needs to know. So this one of those things, if you're not getting your people to watch these weekly trainings, you're making a massive mistake. I don't know what you've been doing for the last 37 years, but I've been doing this, and I assure you, your people need to get this information. So that's all I got for today, Ray. Thank you. Again, sorry for the bizarre hotel room lighting and all that stuff, but the information was definitely spot on.
No worries. Thank you so much, Mark. Well, there you have it. We're here every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Mark, have a great time in New York.
I will.
Have safe travels back. And like I said, stay plugged in, stay close to the fire, stay close to this our Saturday Bellator calls, and we'll see you next week. God bless. Have a great week.